As diplomatic efforts appear to ramp up between the US and Iran, Tehran is now embroiled in another conflict. In a stunning development, Iran claims Ukraine attacked one of its vessels in the Caspian Sea over the weekend. Now, Ukraine's president says drones targeted several ships which were transporting military cargo from Iran to Russia. That's the story out of Ukraine. Iran says at least one person was killed and 3 injured and is now threatening Ukraine. This all comes as US military operations against Iran do appear to be on hold. But despite the US signalling new diplomatic efforts, Tehran insists Washington will not determine the timing of this war. Look, from Europe to the Gulf, we are following all sides of this evolving story for you. Today, we've got Claire Sebastian in London. Eleni Giokos is in Dubai. Let's start, if we can, Claire, with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warning that this incident in the Caspian Sea cannot go unanswered. What is going on there, and why would Kyiv risk getting mixed up in another conflict?
Yeah, Becky, I think it's a calculated risk for Ukraine here. I just want to be clear, we're not 100% sure at this point what exactly happened. We have different accounts from different sides. Ukraine says it hit cargo ships that were under international sanctions, as well as a sort of missile boat, a military ship. It's not saying which countries they were flagged under or owned by. It's saying they were involved in transporting military equipment between Iran and Russia. Those were the exact words of President Zelensky over the weekend. Iran, of course, on the other hand, is saying that one cargo ship, civilian cargo ship, was hit and one seafarer was killed and several injured, and the ship was on its way from Russia to Iran. So we have different accounts there, but why would Ukraine take the risk here, I think, is a really big question. Look, on the one hand, the position of Zelensky is that Iran has effectively already attacked Ukraine through its supply to Russia of Shahed drones and then the subsequent licenses, ballistic missiles also reportedly. And so that is his sort of official position, that this is a legitimate target. But I think the timing here is really interesting because, of course, Zelensky is now going into this big diplomatic week. He's in the UK today. He's heading, we think, to Washington tomorrow to meet with President Trump. And these strikes do allow him to sort of re-argue the prowess of Ukraine's deep strikes to help with this flipping of the narrative around the sort of patron-client relationship that we used to have with Ukraine when it visited its Western allies, towards the sort of mutuality of these relationships. And of course, it helps bring Ukraine up the priority list, especially in the eyes of President Trump, if he sees that Ukraine is now potentially able to help weaken Iran through strikes like this, and also the danger of the burgeoning military relationship between Russia and Iran and how that could affect the course of the war with Iran. So I think all of that helps bolster those arguments for Zelensky going in to a critical diplomatic week and, of course, especially a critical meeting in the White House.
And what do we understand happened in the Caspian Sea, and how concerned should we be at this point about this conflict, that between the US and Iran, expanding into a new front?
It certainly has all the characteristics that could happen. The Caspian Sea, of course, has been used to connect Iran and Russia for a long time, trading across it. And what Iran is saying about this incident, they're saying that a ship that was coming from Astrakhan at the northern end of the Caspian Sea was traveling carrying steel to Iran. Anzali was the port, Bandar Anzali at the southern end of the Caspian Sea, about 600 miles away, about 1,000 kilometers. And that's what the Iranians say was struck, a vessel simply coming from Russia to them carrying raw steel, and one person was killed and 3 were injured. Now, President Zelensky in Ukraine, his understanding of their strike, a Ukraine strike, is different. He says that this was an Iranian ship, or a ship, bringing Iranian weapons to Russia. And as we know, Russia has been using, over the last more than 4 years, Shahed and other types of drones that have been made in Iran and supplied to Russia. Russia's learnt from those drones, augmented them, supplemented them, but lent heavily at times on Iran's support for weapons to be used in Ukraine. So from President Zelensky's point of view, that was a legitimate target. And the Ukrainians, for about the past 8 or 9 months, have been targeting Russian facilities inside the Caspian Sea. They've hit an oil terminal there, as well as some other shipping. But the crunch point of what you're saying here is, does this escalate the war? And if you listen to what Iranian leaders are saying, we've heard from the spokesman at the foreign ministry in Tehran and other senior Iranian officials saying Ukraine should not expect to get away with this. They should expect there to be a response. And one senior parliamentarian in Iran said, the US and Israel have learnt that lesson. So Iran is very clearly signaling that it would choose a military response to Ukraine. And in that context, suddenly the war between the US and Iran and in the Gulf just balls westwards and has a whole other potential theater of military operation for the Iranians. They haven't done anything yet. They're speaking about it. In the past, when they've spoken about it, they do follow through.
Let's talk about the new Zelensky factor, if you will. Ukraine this weekend attacking this Iranian vessel in the Caspian Sea. This is a route for much of Iran's trade with Russia. Iran responding with warnings. The new one coming overnight from an Iranian regional governor is Ukraine, too, may soon come to understand that Iran does not let actions go unanswered. What does this do?
Kate, this is first of all, let's step way back. Iran has been supporting Russia in its war against Ukraine directly. They provide Shahed drones. They provide technology. Russia now has a factory producing these Iranian Shahed drones, which allows Iran to prosecute its war. This has been going on for years. And Zelensky, about 3 days ago, said that the Ukrainians struck a ship in the Caspian Sea carrying military material between Russia and Iran. Iran is now claiming that this is basically an act of war, and Iran is now threatening to attack Ukraine. So this is how these two storylines are coming together. But the cooperation between Russia and Iran has been going on for some time. But this will be a topic in the Oval Office when Zelensky meets with President Trump. Totally different dynamic than that infamous meeting about 18 months ago. Now Ukraine arguably has the upper hand. There's a sanctions bill pending still in the Senate, and Zelensky's coming with some cards, and he's saying he's going to lay out for the president his information on what Russia is doing to actually support Iran in its conflict against us. So this is how these two strands come together. The cooperation between Russia, Iran, and China is a larger backdrop to everything we're talking about day by day here, Kate. And that'll be a very important meeting in the Oval Office this week.
Yeah, I mean, do you call them these two storylines and two strands coming together? It's like, how much closer do these two wars come to each other? Is it kind of a terrifying prospect?